Local history. Local culture. Local events. Your community. This is the Joe Kelly Show.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the show. Andria Heath's our guest. We're going to be talking about the Utica Zoo, and that's good because she's the executive director of the Utica Zoo, and there's lots of stuff going on up there, and we're going to be talking about some of that. Before we do that, though, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you've got lots of stuff coming up, including bright lights.
Bright nights.
Oh, bright nights. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What is it?
So last year, during the 107-day closure due to COVID in the summer, I actually was sitting on the beach in August with a little trip with my family, and I was thinking, we have got to do something to try to make up some of this revenue from not being able to have our really large events all year in 2020. And so it was on a hot, I think 90-degree summer day that I thought, we're going to do it. We're going to light up the zoo at Christmas time during the holidays with all of the holiday lights and try to create a new tradition for families. And so we launched it last year, Bright Nights, with our lead sponsor, Teresa Flemmick, came forward with a really large gift, and we bought all of these big structures. Some of them are animated. They're all, really giant. Mm-hmm. And we kicked it off on Black Friday last year, and then we only were able to hold it one weekend because it was so well attended, we could not ensure social distancing, et cetera. But it was a success, and we knew that it would, be a nice tradition to start. So it actually starts this year again. Runs from the day after Thanksgiving. It started, and it'll go all the way through Sunday, December 19th. So it's 12 nights total. It's the whole lower half of the zoo. We purchased new lights again this year, thanks to Teresa and other sponsors, and Jason Topi also with Teresa. So we purchased new lights. It's meandering through the lower part of the zoo, all lit up, very festive. There's going to be caroling piped in throughout the zoo with fire pits for warming moments for people to take a moment and get warmed up. Our pavilion will be heated. There's letters to Santa Claus, and they get answered. Mm-hmm. Santa will be there each of the nights. There'll be food trucks and hot cocoa trucks. And so it's just a great way to just fit that into all the different kinds of things that people do during the holidays. And enjoy.
I'm reminded a little bit of what they used to have over at Masonic Home.
Well, that one was a drive-through, and that was fantastic, and that's part of how we got this idea. A lot of zoos and aquariums do it throughout the country. I thought you were going to say it's a little reminiscent of Trinkus Manor.
I was going to say that number two,
and that one too, because that's that one where you kind of like walked through and stopped and gazed. And
yeah, but they didn't have as much as you've got going up there with the hot chocolate and the food trucks and the Santa and all that.
Right, and the Santa, and we will have the music, and there will be an opportunity to, just stop and take photos with all the lights, go into the gift shop. We have a lot of holiday themed things, and also in the gift shop will be a Christmas tree with ornaments of items that we need for the animals. So if people are looking at a way to give back, they can do that.
It's always you're a 501c3.
We are.
It's always a struggle, isn't it? There's a lot of 501c3s in our area and throughout the United States. It's always a struggle. You've got to be constantly looking for ways to raise money.
That's true, and you want to stay relevant, and you want to, some things are traditional, and like our Brew Fest, our Wine in the Wilderness Spooktacular, we couldn't hold Wine in the Wilderness in 2020 or 2021. We did do Brew Fest. So some things people look to year after year and they enjoy. Other things they get tired of, so you have to replace them. But I do think Bright Nights will be something that will stick around for quite a while.
And you've got another fundraiser coming up as well.
It's more of an admission driver, so it's called New Year's Eve, and it's on New Year's Eve day, December 31st, around 11 till 1, but somewhere around noon, our animal care staff makes an enrichment item, usually some type of paper mache, filled with some type of a treat for one of the animals. We choose each year a different animal, and around noon we do the ball drop into the exhibit. We have a toast of, in the past it's been sparkling grape juice. This year we actually have champagne little bottles of bubbles that each, that people will get. There's fire warming stations, and there's an opportunity to get marshmallows. But it's a nice way for families to ring out the new year together during the daylight hours when everybody's still awake.
Yeah.
And, so
And
that's
you
fun.
said it was more of an admission driver?
Right.
What do you mean?
So there's no extra fee, and actually that's the same with Bright Nights. It's actually the cost of admission. The exhibits are the lights as opposed to the animals. There may be some animals being able to be peeked at during Bright Nights, depending on the weather, but it will be dark at the zoo. But on New Year's Eve, it's just admission into the zoo, get to see the animals, do everything zoo you would do, and have that little ceremony kind of bringing out the old year.
Speaking of animals, you've got a new animal up there, yes?
We do. We have Zecora. She's a beautiful female zebra brought in to join our male Rendu. Rendu is actually a subspecies of zebra that is, I've learned this just over the last year or so, he's a subspecies that's predominantly domineering, more aggressive than some of the other subspecies. And he had been for a long time just with his father. His father passed away. Rendu actually was aggressive. So our new animal care director, he's actually deputy director of life sciences, comes with 30 years of a lot of great animal science experience, and said, well, we've got to get Rendu a harem. So we're bringing in Zecora. We hope that they breed. If indeed she then has an offspring, then we can start to build up that exhibit. And we just built a beautiful new barn, invested about $200,000 in this new exhibit. It's an important animal to us. The zebra is in our logo.
Yeah, I notice on your shirt
yeah.
you've got the logo. The new barn is where? Orientate me.
So it's attached to the zebra exhibit, but it's actually kind of past our parking lot. So it's tucked out of the way. It has side yards that Zecora can have a yard to herself, Rendu could have a yard to himself. Zecora and an offspring could also have space. The barn has, it's exactly how we want to go moving forward. Heat, electricity, the sewer system in it, hand washing station for our staff, and a lot of room for our staff to be able to work with Zecora, do training, enrichment.
One of the things about the Utica Zoo is that it started in what year?
I knew you were going there when I talked about how great the barn is, because we are 100 years old.
Yeah.
And so it was 2014 that we were 100, so we're well past.
Yeah.
And a lot of the buildings are, still the original.
Right. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about how the zoo got started, kind of a unique way that the Utica Zoo got started. We're talking to Andria Heath. She's the executive director at the Utica Zoo. Lots of stuff upcoming there. Short break, right back. And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Andria Heath's our guest. She's the executive director at the Utica Zoo. We're talking about the zoo. And before we get into a little bit of the history and how the zoo got started over 100 years ago, COVID, how much havoc did it play with the Utica Zoo?
In 2020, we literally lost about $1 million of our operating budget with a combination of being closed for the 107 days, so admission, gift shop, education programs, our major events all throughout the year were just non-existent. 2021 has been kinder. We had a nice admission. I think it's because we're outside, people could spread out, and people might have had a little time to do that because they couldn't do other things. So we had a nice admission, gift shop sales, still couldn't have all of our events, and our education programming really got hit this year because we couldn't have field trips come into the zoo, or we weren't invited to as many places, outside of the zoo with our Zoomobile. Birthday parties were all held outside. It was a little different this year. We won't be able to have any birthday parties inside for the fall or winter. So we're still taking a hit on our revenue. Yeah.
The COVID, in addition to the money that everybody loses, it just kind of has a different mindset for all these institutions. I mean, people are very creative, like you, coming up with your special events. These, I want to call it bright nights.
Bright nights, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to call it bright lights, but I caught it as it came out. Coming up with things like that. But when you're in the COVID situation, I mean, it just dampens everything, yes?
Well, I think in addition to dampening everything, it's also when's the next shoe going to fall? You know, we might be kind of heading into a direction that seems positive, and then you hear about numbers, or you might, you know, have a staff member who says a family member has come down, you know, sick, so I better, you know, take a couple days off. So far, we've been really, really grateful that our staff has remained healthy. We, you know, we're science-based, so we really look at the science of everything. We are watching for our animals' health as well, and that's been paramount to us, keeping the animals and the staff safe. So we might have been a little more conservative at times with requiring masks, et cetera, even back when they were starting to loosen up. Our animal care staff all wear masks when they're with the animals, in particular the primates and the big cats, because those across the nation are species that have actually contracted the virus.
I was going to ask you about that. Can this virus go back and forth?
I don't know that it's necessarily back and forth, but there is a strain that animals can catch and have caught. And many facilities around the country, and we're actually in talks right now with manufacturers, have vaccinated some of their animals. It's a different vaccine than humans get, but we're looking into that as well.
So you haven't done it yet?
We haven't done it yet. There's almost a rotation of being able to get signed on to have it eligible and available to us.
Yeah. And the zoo is accredited.
We are.
That's something big to be thankful for, yes?
Yes, we achieved it in 2018. And what's important to note, it doesn't mean that once you're accredited, you just go through a cycle of getting reaccredited. It's actually a new accreditation process every 5 years. Because of COVID, we were moved by 1 year, so our next accreditation is in 2024, but we're already starting to do assessments and preparing for mock inspections, et cetera.
Yeah, and what do they do? Have like judges come in and look at things?
There's a team of 3 or 4 of a panel. It's usually someone who might be kind of like an administrative CEO type person, a veterinarian may come, and then an animal director. And they're all from other zoos and aquariums, and they're part of teams. It's part of their career to manage their own facility, and then they do this also.
What's the benefit to the Utica Zoo of being accredited?
Well, there's so many. It's access to a lot of resources, not necessarily financial. In fact, we pay into the national organization, you know, an assessment. Every zoo does, an aquarium. But it's having 240 colleagues, you know, right at your fingertips through a phone call or a network through AZA. It also benefits our community and our members, because our membership is then reciprocated with many of the facilities back out. I know that you're a fan of New Orleans, and I know that the Audubon Park Zoo and Aquarium are both, you know, they reciprocate with us. Our members sometimes buy our membership just because they do travel, and or maybe they have loved ones in another area and they go there frequently, so they're able to use the membership.
Off the top of your head, how many reciprocating agreements do you have?
Well, there's 240 institutions in AZA, 246 maybe even, but not all of them have reciprocals. Like I believe Disney, SeaWorld, the Bronx, some of the San Diego, some of the larger ones. I'm not sure if they reciprocate, but most do, and it's either typically at a 50% or sometimes even 100%. For instance, like the Toronto Zoo, so it's even outside of the country.
Yeah. Do you make it a point when you're out of town to try to get to other zoos, to try to steal some ideas?
I do, and it's funny because I don't actually look at the animals as much. I mean, of course, I love that, but I'm looking at, you know, the sidewalks and the signage and the trash cans and their vending machines and the locks and hardware that they're using to keep visitors where they're supposed to stay. And but I think it's I've always done that. Even in my other careers when I traveled, I almost always went to a zoo or an aquarium, which is why it seemed fitting that I was able to join the Utica Zoo in 2011.
Yeah, and do you try to pick up fundraising ideas when you're at these other zoos?
Not so much their events, et cetera, but maybe some of the ways that they promote their membership throughout the grounds. or they're adopting an animal, or their animal encounters, primarily things that we do, but how do they message it? You know, because I think there are still things at the Utica Zoo that unfortunately are a well-kept secret, even though we try to say it, like the fact that we're open all year except for just having had Thanksgiving and now Christmas Day coming up. Those are the only 2 days of the year that we're actually closed.
Yeah, and come this time of the year, it gets a little bit tougher to be a zoo in this area, does it not?
It does, because it's cold, so it's and icy and rainy and snowy, so it's hard on our staff to make sure that they're out there doing everything they need to in the exhibits for the animals. The animals all have areas that they go to be warm and dry, but the staff still has to, clean up. It's difficult because our visitors do have to come all the way into a pretty long trek from the parking lot into the zoo. But we were just recently awarded a $2 million gift, and in the spring we'll break ground on a big new building at the front of the zoo.
And that's going to be like a visitor center? Or?
Yeah, it'll be a visitor center, but it'll also have classrooms, event space, restrooms, a larger gift shop, a small concession area. So it'll definitely be that sense of arrival where people, and especially kids, will know, we're here, we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the building now that's used for the gift shop?
It will be attached.
Okay. And that's a pretty big investment.
It's huge, and it's a game changer, and we're so grateful that the city of Utica did choose the zoo as one of the beneficiaries of that federal funding.
I was going to ask you where that money came from. It came from the city through that federal funding?
Yes.
Okay. I said we were going to talk about how the zoo got started. We didn't, but we will when we come back.
Okay.
Andria Heath's our guest, Utica Zoo. Short break, right back. And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Andria Heath's our guest, Executive Director at the Utica Zoo. We're talking about all the things that are going on up there, which is a lot in terms of building, in terms of fundraising. You still doing the snowshoeing up there?
We do. So
Yeah.
when we get the correct base, it's a certain number of inches to protect the condition of the snowshoes. We'll open up the word and the messaging that we have our snowshoeing. People can bring their own, or they can rent them from us. We actually did invest in some new snowshoes this year. We were able to get some. Couldn't at the end of last year, and there was such a demand, but we couldn't buy them. So this summer we bought snowshoes.
Yeah.
And we're excited. It's a great program. People love it.
Well, you've got a great area to snowshoeing up there.
And you get to see some of the exhibits from the other side. So the wolves, the Arctic fox, it goes up into the North Trek Trail.
Yeah. The Utica Zoo for 100 and how many years?
Well, we were 100 in 2014, so we're about
Okay.
106 now.
But it all stems back to a gift, yes?
Sure. So we are a Frederick Olmsted Jr. Park in the city of Utica, and we specifically reside in Roscoe Conkling Park. And it was all a gift to the zoo from the Proctor family. And we started, the story is that we started back then with 3 fallow deer, and then and grew in our collection. But then in the 60s, a number of women who are, for the most part, many of them still with us. They were part of the junior league type
remember,
group.
yeah.
And they were, for the most part, they were raising their children in the home. It was very traditional. Their husbands were at work. They were looking for things to do, educational and fun, to take their children. So they actually formed the society, the Utica Zoological Society. That's when we became actually chartered with the New York State Department of Education, which we still are. And that's really when it all kind of started to take off.
Yeah, and it started with 3 deer, so the legend goes. How many animals there now?
About 200,
Yeah.
representing about 85 species. And we have a lot of plans to grow. The person who I mentioned, his name is Jay Pratt. He's new to us, recently from the Henry Dorley Zoo in Oklahoma, Omaha, Nebraska. And he has a lot of plans for us, and I'm on board with every single one of them.
Good. And the number of people you've got coming through in an average year, maybe not recent years, but in average, what do you get up there?
Over 100,000, and that's primarily just with the admission, and then there's extras that we serve through the education programs that are off grounds with our Zoomobile, and then the events bring in thousands of people as well.
And the Zoomobile's still going strong, is it?
Yes, we have two. I am being told, one of them we won from a Facebook contest. It's a Toyota Prius national Facebook contest, and we were in a grouping and we rose to the top from people voting. But that actually was 2012, 2013. Same thing with our Ford Transit that at the time was donated by the Carbone family with Carbone Ford. And we're going to be needing another vehicle.
Yeah. Talking about winning contests, you're in a contest, so to speak, with Utica Chamber.
Yes, we're one of the finalists for the annual Business of the Year award for the category of not-for-profit under 50 employees. We have about 35. We're excited.
Yeah, good luck. When is that going to be announced?
The lunch is December 9th, and so the 3 top finalists in each of the categories learns that day if they are the of the year, Business of the Year.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
The number of acres that you have up there, how big is that?
Approximately 80. We only have about 35 developed.
So you've got room to go.
We do.
Yeah.
And a lot of plans.
Do you?
Yeah, so we need a lot of money.
Is there is there a master plan that exists for the zoo?
There is. We worked on it and we rolled it out to the public in 2016. It's called our Dream Big. And 2021 is really the year that we had hoped to be able to roll out a version 2. With COVID, we were not able to pull that together, and it is costly to do a master plan, but it is on our agenda.
Speaking of giving big, a lot of people give at the end of the year. Do you find that to be the case, that you get end-of-year gifts?
We do. I think there's still that implication of a tax. You know, I've got to get my donor funding in. We do have an opportunity for folks to donate to the zoo right now, and they have a chance to get something a little back. Our red pandas are a signature animal for us, and we want to be able to support them internationally with conservation funding. So we're actually running a raffle right now called Forever Forests, and a good portion of it will go to that conservation effort internationally. We'll also retain some of the funding for a new red panda exhibit. So it's a raffle. The drawing will be December 23rd. If we sell 1,000 tickets, the drawing is $10,000 cash. If we're under 1,000 tickets, the drawing is still $1,500.
The another good way of raising money.
Yeah, because people, I mean, only 3,000 tickets are sold in total, so really the chances are pretty good. They're $25 each, or $100 for 5 of them, or $25
and
each.
how does somebody get one of that?
They can get them at our gift shop. And we also have, I think, about 10 different vendors throughout the 2-county area, Herkimer and Oneida County, who are selling them for us. Or you could call and buy it over the phone with us.
Beaver Sprite. A lot of people don't associate the Utica Zoo and Beaver Sprite, but they're one.
Right, because it was gifted to us, and the deal was finalized in 2019. And it's about 1,300 acres, and we're doing programming, and there's hiking on it. And we also, for summer 2022 and beyond, we actually joined something called Tent RR. So we actually have this beautiful, serene little camping site overlooking one of the brooks. It's glamping, but at a little more on the primitive side, but it's a structure with a bed, fire pit, facilities that are, you know, primitive, but they're there. And it's a beautiful site to camp.
For those who don't know where it is.
It's right outside of Dolgeville. It's located in Oppenheim, and it's pretty easy to find. It's just a few moments over the bridge in Dolgeville.
Didn't a lady start all that?
Yes, her name's Dorothy Richards, and she can be given credit for eradicating the extinction of the North American beaver, and her home is on the property. Inside the home, it's really quite unique. There's a lot of beaver signs of, like, the woodwork and the furniture has been chewed and gnawed on. She used to let the beavers right in the house with her. We don't do that any longer. But we still have the pool that was in the house where they lived.
Yeah, we've got about 30 seconds left. Hit those 2 special events you've got upcoming.
Bright Nights, running all the way through on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays at 5 o'clock till 7, right up till December 19th. And then on December 31st, we're doing New Year's Eve around 11 to 1.
What does it cost to become a member?
It's about $79 for a family membership and $99 for the extended family, which is definitely a great deal.
Okay. continued success.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back next week. Don't forget cnyhomepage.com. There's lots of good stuff there. Until next time, take care of yourself, everybody.